Okay, good morning all. So today we are going to discuss again the module 3. The topic is again embedded system components. So last class I have discussed you about the embedded system. What are its applications? Yes, what are its purpose? What are its classification? So that we have gone in the first part. In the second part, so in the third module, what we will be discussing here is what are the elements of the embedded system, right? So to design an embedded system, what all components we do require. So you can see on this screen, you have a core. Core is nothing but a processors, right? And also you require a memory, yes. And then you require a IO input ports, that is a sensors, and also you require output ports, that is actuators, and other integrated circuits and subsystem you require. And also for the communication purposes, you require the Bluetooth or the USB, right? So here we'll be going all these components in detail. Discussion will be there one by one. So these are the main components in the embedded system. Okay. Yes. So we'll go to the next slide. So first we will see what is the main component in the embedded system is the processor. You know what is a processor? The processor is nothing but which is called the brain of the system. Without that you cannot design any system, right? So here you will be having the general purpose domain specific processor. There are different types of processors are there. So the first one is microprocessor. Second is microcontrollers. Third one is digital signal processor. So the different processors that are used for the embedded system. So next one is the type of the processor is application specific integrated circuits, that is ASIC. This is also a kind of a processor which is used for the designing of the embedded system. Then you have a programmable logic devices. And fourth one, you are having commercial off the shelf components, COTS. This is also a kind of a processor which is used for the embedded system, right? So all this processor we will discuss one by one. So first we will go with the first one, the microcontrollers and the microprocessor. So what is a microcontroller? So microcontroller is also a processor which is basically used in most of the embedded system. And when you use these microcontrollers, they will be doing only a particular task, right? So whereas coming to the microprocessor, usually you see the desktop, yes, the laptop, the most of those systems will be having a microprocessor. And we cannot say that it will do a specific task, but here these microprocessor will do any one of the application. You can run game, you can design website, you can create the document, right? So there will be one question on this. What is the difference between microprocessor and microcontroller, right? So next, coming to the difference, you can think of the microcontroller. So depending upon the input, the output is defined. So take an example here, a microwave oven, right? So here this is one embedded system. So here the microcontroller processor will be used, right? And we know that the output is already defined. You know what is a microwave oven? Basically, it is used for heating it is used for the cooking purposes or for the heating system, right? So now coming to the microprocessor, here the inputs are there, but the output is not defined. That means you can design any application. Therefore, the output is not specific here. You can run the game, you can design a website. Therefore, the output is not defined here, right? So now, next coming to the microcontroller, what are the resources we require here? So just go through that. So here in the microcontroller, when you are designing, you require the small resources like RAM, ROM, and the IO ports, right? And all this will be built on a single chip. Then coming to the microprocessor, because I just told you the example is the desktop or the laptop. So here the high amount of resources like RAM, ROM is required. So therefore, if you go that the desktop, the cost is high. Whereas designing a help of a microcontroller, the cost of the embedded system is very low. Then coming to the clock speed, right? The clock speed of the microprocessor is quite high. Why? Because it will be running n number of applications. So therefore, it has to execute a more number of instructions per second. So therefore, the microprocessor, they operate above 1 gigahertz. And also they will be doing many complex tasks. So coming to the microcontroller, whereas the speed is very few megahertz. Why it is? Because it will be doing only a particular task. So therefore, compared to the microprocessor, the microcontroller speed is very less. Then go to the next slide. What are the again which the differences we will see? Then microprocessor, like if you see the application point of view, I just see the screen there. So what are the microcontroller application? Basically microcontroller, they are used in mobile phones, DVD players, washing machine, camera, security alarm, microwave oven, etc. Coming to the microprocessor, because they require a huge amount of memory, yes, and also the speed is more, execution of the processing is high. So therefore they are used in data acquisition system, calculators, and even for accounting systems and communication system, right? So this is the microprocessor and the microcontroller, right? So next kind of a processor that is used in the embedded system is digital signal processor. So this is also a kind of a processor which will be used in embedded system. So basically these DSPs are, they are either 8 or 16 or 32-bit microprocessor, right? So basically where these microprocessors are used, the application is like audio, video and communication applications. So what is this audio and video? Why the audio and video application, or the microphone, or the MP3 player? Why these DSPs are required? So I'll just tell you. So here, why this DSP processor is required for this particular application is, suppose if you are talking into the system, right? So now I'm talking with the help of a Zoom app, I'm teaching you online, right? So now if it has to be stored in the computer system, because again later if I want to see my recording of online class, then what it has to do, the data is there in analog, it has to convert back it into the digital. Again, for digital data storing, inside you require the DSP processor, right? So here the DSP processor plays a very important role in audio and the video applications, right? So here can you see on the left hand corner what all the components that are there in the DSP? So you have a program memory, you have a data memory, you have a compute engine, and you have a IO unit. So DSP is also a small processor. It is also made up of a program memory. You know what is a memory? It is used for storing the required program, which is required for the DSP. And also the data is, right, whichever the program you store, the data has to be shared with that program, right? So the data memory is also required. And then coming to the computational engine. What is this computational engine is? It will be doing the basically math processing. So in the audio application, what happens? Whenever the data has to be stored in the computer in terms of the digital, the data has to be done in digitization. There are some mathematical calculations are required to store the data back in the digital form. So therefore, the compute engine basically it does for the DSP math processing. And also you require the IO unit. So what is IO unit? Why it requires? If the DSP has to communicate with the outside input and output ports, then you require a separate interface is required for the DSP, right? So these are all the main components of the digital signal processing. So next is the CR, what is the application area? The application area I just told you where these processors are used: audio, video, signal processing, telecommunication, and multimedia applications, right? So here the DSP, it you can see here below the diagram, right? Why this application, this audio video signal processing, you can see with the help of the diagram here below. right? Above that on the top, you can see the block diagram. So what is the example I had given? Suppose if you are speaking in front of the computer system, right? And you want to store back in the system and later you want to rehear that, right? So how it is done here? First, whatever you speak, now I am speaking with you all, it is analog in nature, right? So inside there are system, there is a built-in ADC will be there. What is the use of a ADC? Which will convert the analog signal into the digital signal. Now it has converted the data. You can see here the recording has been done. This is the ADC part which will convert the analog into the digital in terms of the zeros. But again, inside the processor, it has to store the data in the digital form. For that, you require the digital signal processor, right? So what this digital signal processor will do, it will do some, you can see here, basically what it will be doing, it will be doing the real-time calculations. It will do fast Fourier. If any data it is having, which is an analog in nature, which requires the calculation, all those will be done by the DSP. Then what happens? That data, again, it will be stored in the memory. Then why this direction is shown like this? Again, why the data is given back to the DAC? Suppose later when you come next time and you want to see whatever you have recorded, you want to play it back, right? So again, the data is stored in the memory in terms of the zeros and ones. Again, it has to convert it back into the analog. So again, what the DSP will do, it will convert for the DAC, the data has to be there in that form. It will convert it and then you can see the data has been converted back into the analog. So can you see here? Yes? Okay. So this is what the diagram. So the main application of the DSP is audio video signal processing, telecommunication and the multimedia. So this is also a kind of a processor which is used in the embedded system, right? Okay. So next we will see there will be one important question. Already we have discussed in the first module. What is the difference between RISC and CISC processor? There will be one fixed question on this, about 8 to 10 marks, right? So you know that RISC, basically this processor, it is nothing but it is used in microcontroller. CISC is nothing but where the processors are microprocessor, right? So we will see what is the difference between two, right? So RISC is nothing but you are learning the ARM processor, right? So that is also RISC, 32-bit RISC microcontroller. So if you see, it requires lesser number of instructions. Coming to the CISC, the one, the desktop, it is used, the microprocessor, the architecture is based on CISC. So it requires more number of instruction. Why? Because there is a more number of calculations will be going in the system. Then second point, coming to the instruction pipelining. You know what is a pipelining? Because we don't want a slower system. We want all the instructions to be executed parallelly. So therefore, the instruction pipelining is also there in the RISC. And here in the, actually in the CISC also you have an instruction pipelining is required. Okay. Then coming to the orthogonal instruction set that is there in the RISC. And CISC, you are having the non-orthogonal instruction set. So what do you mean by orthogonal instruction set? So orthogonal is nothing but in RISC, there are instructions are there, but here less number of addressing modes are used. Addressing modes are nothing but to access the data from the memory. There are different types of modes are there, which is less in number. So therefore, we can say it is an orthogonal instruction set. Coming to the CISC processor, you have non-orthogonal instruction set. That means the addressing modes, there are more number of addressing modes are there to access the data from the memory, and also the processor has to execute the application, right? So now coming to the RISC, the operations, basically they are dependent on registers, right? So only memory operations, you know that the ARM processor, it is basically a load and store architecture. I cannot access the data directly from the memory. I have to use load and store. But whereas in the case of CISC, if you see what happens, they are based on registers as well as memory. You can directly access from the memory. Suppose if you are adding the two numbers, directly you can access the memory. No need to first dump the data in register. So that is one option is there in the CISC. Now coming to the one more difference, in the RISC you have a large number of register, whereas in the CISC, because direct access data from the memory is there, therefore you have a limited number of registers in the CISC. And coming to the last one, here the programmer has to write the instruction to execute a task. Again, you require instructions for each RISC and the CISC, right? So that difference you can see on the screen. So next we will go RISC, you have a fixed length instruction. That means each length of the instruction is fixed. You already, I have discussed this in the class also in the first module. The ARM instruction, it will be executing in a single cycle. The length of the instruction is fixed. Whereas in the CISC, you are having a variable length instructions, right? And coming to this, the RISC, the architecture is dependent on Harvard architecture. I just told you in the class also that there are two types of architecture the systems are built, Harvard architecture and the von Neumann architecture. So basically the RISC processor which are used in the embedded system, they are Harvard architecture. That means here in this architecture, both the data and the program, they are separate. They are not built into a common memory, right? Whereas coming to the CISC, the architecture, can be either Harvard or von Neumann architecture. In the von Neumann architecture, both the data and the code, they are stored in the same memory. But the CISC processor which are used for the embedded system, either they can follow Harvard or von Neumann architecture. Okay, so this is one difference. Okay, next we will see the big Indian versus little Indian processor. So already you have learned why they are telling about the big Indian and the little Indian processor. So some of the processors that are used in the embedded system, either they follow little Indian or the big Indian. So what do you mean by the little Indian? How the data is stored in the memory, whether the lower byte is first stored in the lower address or the higher byte data is stored in the lower address, right? So NDNS is nothing but the order how the data is stored in the computer memory, right? So you can see the little Indian here, the lower byte of the data, that is least significant value is first stored in the memory at the lowest address, right? So that we can see in the example in the next slide. So here you can see the example 90AB 12CD. Suppose this data has to be stored in the memory, right? So can you see on the right left hand so this corner, so how this data is stored? So some of the processor, they follow the little Indian format. So what is happening? The CD, this is the first lower byte. This will be stored in the lower address 1000. Next is 12, that is stored in the next memory address, that is 1001. AB, it is stored in 1002. And the most significant data is stored in the most significant address, that is 1003. So in the embedded system, most of the systems, usually they are of little Indian format, right? So there is one more kind of a processor. You have a big Indian. So don't think that the big Indian is a processor. They are telling you about how the data is stored in the memory in all the processors. So here either they can follow little Indian or the big Indian. So what is the big Indian? The higher order byte of the data, that is most significant of the data, is first stored at the lowest address. That's why the big end comes first. That's why the name is given as a big Indian. So just go through the example here. The same example here it is given 90AB 12CD. Suppose this data has to be stored in the memory. You can see at the right corner here, in the first 1000 memory location, first higher byte 90 is stored. Next, AB is stored in 1001, 12 is stored in 1002, and CD is stored in 1003. So this is how the data is stored in little Indian format. Okay. Okay. Hello. Jyoti, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Whatever I am sharing the screen and
Yes, ma'am.
the audio is visible to all. Audio is hearable.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. At
Yes,
the
ma'am.
last 10 minutes, I will be having the discussion. So first, I am explaining the concept. Later, 10 minutes or 5 minutes, we'll have a discussion. So just I'm testing whether all are there, and then whether it is audio is hearable, and even the screen is shareable to you all. Is it there?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then I'll
Yes, ma'am.
conclude this all. Then I'll discuss again. Okay. Okay, next concept I just told you about. The main component in embedded system is, first we talked about the core, that is a processor. Next is memory. So memory also plays a very important role in the embedded system, right? So here, just see the diagram down. So here most of the embedded system, you can see here what is happening. They are all the RAM and CPU, and even you can see here the memory is built onto a single chip, right? So we can say that the processor, the next to processor, you have a built-in memory, and also some input and output ports are also there. So we call this type of a processor, where in the embedded system, is called on-chip memory. But coming to the microprocessor in the desktop, where you see those are not on-chip memory, you don't have. So here you have a separate memory. Here you have a separate memory, and next to that the input and output ports or the memory, RAM and ROM are connected. But in whereas in the case of the embedded system, the external memory is not connected separately in on the chip. On a single chip, everything is built. You have a CPU which contains again the ALU and the control unit part, and also some IO ports which are required for the embedded system. They are all built under a single chip, right? So in that case, we call it as a on-chip memory. If the memory which is not built onto a single chip on a single IC, if it is there external, then we call it as a off-chip memory, right? So again, we will see what are the different types of memory you have, right? So already you know what is a memory. It is used for storing the data, right? In the memory, there are two types are there. Basically, you know ROM, that is read-only memory, and random access memory, right? So read-only memory is a permanent memory. Random access memory is a temporary memory. So based on that, why these memories are required for the embedded system? Because they have to store the data when they are doing any application. When it is running, immediately the data has to be there in the RAM or the ROM. So coming to here, there are different types of memories are used in even in embedded system, right? So first one is the ROM we will be discussing. That is the program storage memory. That is nothing but the ROM. That is the permanent memory. In that there are, you can see 5 types are there. The first one is masked ROM. Okay, that is called MROM. Next you have a programmable read-only memory, that is PROM. Then third, erasable programmable read-only memory, EPROM. Then you have electrically erasable programmable read-only memory, EEPROM. And then you have a flash. So there will be one question on this. What are the different types of memories that are used in an embedded system? Either the question can be asked with respect to the ROM, or the question can be asked with respect to the RAM. You should know all these types, right? So again in the RAM, this is a random access memory. You know that random access memory where the temporary data is stored. Always we say that the RAM is next to the CPU itself, right? So here, in the RAM, you have a different types: static RAM, that is SRAM, dynamic RAM, DRAM, and NVRAM, right? So these are the types of the memory. So we will discuss one by one. So what is a program storage memory? That is the ROM, right? So you know, in the desktop, right? So when you run the desktop, so that time immediately you can see on the screen the Windows 7 or whichever the operating system which you have installed, it will first boot up. So you must be thinking where this operating system is stored. Basically the ROM, you will be having a built-in operating system, whichever you install on the system, that operating systems that are basically stored in the ROM. So because these are permanent, why? Because you cannot erase it. Every time it has to run again and again. So it is permanent. So we have to store it permanent, right? So therefore the ROM is, you can see here the program instruction, it will store the data permanently, right? Even if you turn off the computer system, the data will not be stored. Suppose if you, after working on the system, again if you shut down your system and again you log in to the system, again the operating system will start booting up. That means the operating system, it is stored in which type of the memory? Read-only memory, right? So depending on that, the ROM, there are different types are there. You can see on the right hand side, there are different classification: mask ROM, flash, EEPROM. So I told you that ROM, it is a permanent, but there are some of the ROMs which are designed, you can erase it and you can do it, use it for the other application also. You have a PROM, that is programmable ROM, EEPROM, that is electrically erasable programmable ROM. So these are the different types of the ROM that are used in the embedded system. So first we will see the mask ROM. What is this mask ROM? It is also a kind of a ROM, right? So here basically the cost is very less in this ROM, right? And you can see on the screen, it is also used for most of the embedded system. Like you can see there are used in network operating system, and storing of the fonts for the laser prints, sound data in electronic musical instruments. So these are the application of the masked ROM, right? So here it is called a static ROM. What do you mean by the static is it is not erasable. Once you in the ROM the program is installed, you cannot erase. So therefore it is a static ROM. So this kind of, it is used in most of the laser printers for storing the fonts, right? And next comes PROM. That is, so here it is one time, that is programmable memory. The PROM is also, again, it is not pre-programmed by the manufacturer. What do you mean by that pre-programmed? Like just like in a desktop, the operating system what they installed, right? So that will be some of the embedded systems, suppose in the microwave oven, whatever the real-time operating system if they are using, right? So they have earlier they have designed, every time it will be doing the same task. So suppose if you are designing a system, so where the operating system every time some alteration you want to do and then later you can use it for other purpose, then you can do pre-program. That means here the end user is responsible for programming these devices. So they are they're having the different applications, like including in cell phones, video game consoles, RFID tags, medical devices and other electronics. That means these are pre-programmed, means later if the user, the end user who is using the system, he can change whatever the software he has installed in the ROM, he can pre-program and he can use it for the embedded system, right? So next comes the EEPROM. E stands for what?